And I'm going to start on the audio in 3, 2, 1. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sandy K Nutrition, Health and Lifestyle Queen. Today with me, I have a special guest, and she is my biohacking bestie. Her name is Laini Gray. And Laini Gray began her career in health and fitness more than 2 decades ago. She holds a master's degree in holistic nutrition and is a certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. In addition, she is an ACE certified personal trainer, check. I don't know what check is, but you're going to have to explain that. Check, holistic lifestyle coach, and precision nutrition level 1 coach. And today, Laini and I have a special episode. I love my conversations with Laini because we're going to talk to you all about how to stay healthy throughout the holiday season and all of the travel that you might be doing. And we're here to provide you with information, not guidance. So this is educate. Okay, wait a minute. Let me say that differently. It is guidance, but it's to educate you on your immune health. But you're going to have to decide, along with your qualified practitioner, on if this is right for you. So we're not giving you medical advice. We are just telling you that these are some things that you can explore to support your immune system. And one thing I want to note is that some of the things we might talk about might interfere or interact with medications that you're on. And I always say this to clients. Everybody should really explore this, and not necessarily with your general physician, because your GP likely knows nothing about what we're talking about in terms of supplementation and lifestyle and that sort of thing. So make sure you're talking to somebody who's qualified, and go to drugs.com. Have you ever used that, Laini?
I use it all the time.
Yes, it's an interaction. They have an interaction checker. So
Yeah.
if you are on medications, really empower yourself with that knowledge that you can go, okay, I can't take that because I'm on this medication. Anyway, that was a long intro, but I want to say welcome, Laini. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you, Sandy. You know, I'm excited to be here. I love every conversation we have, and this is going to be a fun one.
Yes, it is. Maybe explain, because I kind of messed that up. What is a Czech holistic lifestyle coach? Did I?
So, Paul Chek, if you've heard of Paul Chek, you should actually Google him. He's one of the fathers of holistic medicine, those kind of things. Do you know the comedian J.P. Sears?
Yes, yes.
He was my trainer. That's who I got certified with.
Oh, amazing. Okay.
In Canada, by the way, in Calgary, back in 2010.
Hey. Oh,
Yes.
see, I didn't even know that. Thank you for explaining
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
You
his book,
have,
which is a great book, is called How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. So he's been talking about environment, toxins, when you eat, how you eat, organic, non-organic, parasites, digestion for decades.
is this
So
by JP Sears then?
this is by Paul Chek, but
Paul
JP,
Check.
yeah, was a practitioner for him for a very long time. And yeah.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. So you have a really, I'm going to say, you've got longevity in this industry. You've been around for a while and you've done a lot. So your advice is going to be invaluable.
Well, thank you. Yes, I've been around for quite a while. I like to think of myself as the average person, having gone through those average person journeys, right? Because we tend to lean into experts that are really experts in their field. And I've kind of walked that path of I've been the trainer in the gym, I've done the nutrition coaching and the health coaching, and now the functional lab testing piece, and doing all of these pieces. And I relate really well to the everyday person, I think.
I think so too. And that's why I wanted you to do this podcast episode with me, because your expertise is more than welcome. And I'm really excited to talk about this. So maybe really, really short. What does our why is everybody talking about boosting the immune system or balancing the immune system or autoimmune diseases? Or let's describe what the immune system is, what it does? Do we want to boost it?
Yeah, so it's part of our physiology. All of us have an immune system, and we've had this since we were born. Our immune system protects us from pathogens and things that aren't supposed to be in our body. So when we're exposed to colds, flu, viruses, mold, dust, all of these different things that we come in contact with on a daily basis, we have this immune system built in that handles all of those things so that we don't get quote unquote infected or sick, right? And most people think about the immune system when they're sick. Oh, don't have very good immunity. I've gotten sick, or it's cold and flu season. I need to boost my immune system so I don't catch this virus or any of those things. But it's kind of similar when we talk about detoxification. This process is going on 24/7, 365 days. This isn't just a seasonal thing that we need to be doing. This is something we need to be aware of every day.
Yeah. And the other thing too, I guess people ask, well, why? Why is everybody sick over the winter? I guess because we're inside more.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that has to do more with the seasons, right? If we live in a warmer place, may not see as much cold and flus. But in the winter time, right, we aren't outside as much. So we're inside with that non-filtered air for most of us, right? We're having heat recirculating through the air that can have dust in it, or your animal pet things, all of those. We get a little more lazy in the winter because it's cold. So we may not be exercising as much. We may not be out in the sunshine as much. We might not even eat as many vegetables as we need to, right? So oftentimes our lifestyle shifts in the winter and we get more susceptible to catching these colds and flus.
Yeah. See, so I guess we can start with that.
Mhm.
Let's start with not boosting the immune system, but really supporting it all year round.
Yeah.
And how do we do that?
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, there's no secret pill. It's all the things you always talk about, Sandy. We really need to double down on all of those behaviors. Eating well, getting a wide variety of fruits and vegetables, all those colors that really boost us to make us more resilient. Getting our sleep, right? That supports our immunity. Getting water, staying hydrated, walking, moving. And the one thing that I like to focus on a lot is that digestive system. So I work with clients all the time and we talk about digestive health, gut health. And if you remember, right, anytime we need to get food into our body and then broken down and the nutrients to our cells, it has to go through our digestive system. Most people understand that. What they don't realize is that digestive system is also what keeps the bad stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
So most of our immune system is actually located within our gut. And so doing things to support our gut health and digestive system all year round help build up that resilience.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because I was just talking and everyone who's listening, we are going to get into the real meat of this, and we're going to give you some supplements that are our favorites, not to boost, but to support. And I want to stress that because Laini and I were talking about that beforehand, because it's you hear, and I'm always like, use your critical thinking when you see something online, always, because it's not necessarily about boosting, it's about supporting.
Mm.
And I don't mean to nitpick on the language, but it matters.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the conversations I have often, and you do as well, is around stress and
Mm.
sleep, right? And that happens throughout the year. And so the example I will give is, let's say you have a big project, or if you're in school, it's a big exam or a paper, or you're working on a podcast interview, whatever it is, you've got this big project. And because you have to get it done, you might skip some sleep, you might skip a few meals, you might skip a few workouts because you're trying to get all this stress done. And then when the stressful situation comes to an end, you're like, okay, great, I made it. And then most people end up getting sick at that point.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because during that state of stress, they haven't recovered adequately during that stressful state. And so then when they have a break, the body's like, oh, like finally I can let down. But the immune system has been weakened because you've been pushing the envelope a little bit. So it's really about how can we build that resilience on an ongoing basis, because we're always going to have germs. We're always going to have people. There's always going to be dust, mold, those things. And we need to be resilient, not just boosting it once in a while.
Yeah, I love that you described it like that. So I have to tell a little story because
Yeah.
I think it's so applicable. So this was in December 2019. We went with a group of us, went to Nashville for my 50th birthday. And I'm going to be 54 in a month. 1 month today, January 6th. So there you go. Anyway, in December, we all went to Nashville, 2019. And there was a woman. This was this is before COVID, people. There was a woman coughing on a plane like I have never heard before. And so we were kind of joking around. This is before we knew anything, but
Yeah.
I'm sure the virus was around back then because when I heard that cough, I was like, damn, that's scary.
Yes.
Anyway, a friend of ours was sitting directly in front of her. She was wearing a mask. Everybody, my whole group of friends, ended up getting sick either on that trip or immediately when we got back, except for me and my husband.
Interesting,
Isn't that
right?
interesting?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so when I had heard, and some people ended up getting really sick, like personally, and I can't say there was no testing, there was nothing, but some people got pretty sick. And
Hmm.
so it's more about, first of all, we don't necessarily know what's coming at us.
Right. Right.
And then secondly, just because you're sick, it doesn't mean that you're a sickly person. We all need to understand that getting sick sometimes is actually really good for us.
Yeah, it is.
Do you
It
want
is.
to expand on that?
Yeah.
Because people think that just because they got sick, they're weak, but that's not necessarily true.
No, our immune system has to be trained. That's what it has to do. It has to be exposed to things and learn that this isn't what the body wants to have inside. And so when we get sick and we get over it, we actually have this natural immunity where the body goes, oh, the next time that comes, I'm
Yes.
ready. So sometimes we want to be exposed to those things. That's why, even when we talk about the gut microbiome and immunity from a young age, that's why the research shows it's a good idea to be outside with animals, to have multiple siblings, to be eating dirt, to get stuff all over your face, to breathe lots of things, because then the immune system gets exposed to all of these different substances and toxins and environmental things and builds up this resilience so that you can handle things. And the complete opposite, those people that are sensitive to everything,
Yes.
they haven't built up that immunity. So now any little thing can trigger them. That's a different situation, but we do want to be exposed to things so that we can build up some immunity to it.
Yeah, I remember having a conversation. I think it might have been Dr. Elizabeth Yurth.
Oh,
It
yes.
might have been her. She said, listen, it's not a bad thing to get sick once in a while. It's if you're always getting sick, then
Right.
that might be something to look at. Right. So I wanted to give that little example because, well, I ended up getting COVID anyway.
Yeah, I
Just
did as well.
everybody did. But I'm just saying it's really interesting because there's so much we don't know
Hmm.
about the immune system. We're learning and we're getting pretty good.
Hmm.
And the other thing I will say, I like to be proactive.
Yeah.
So I noticed I had a colonoscopy a few weeks ago. And then after the colonoscopy, and then I was sleeping great. Remember, I was saying,
Yeah.
and after my sleep has been kind of off and my gut has been off.
Yeah.
So, what I've been doing, and just to your point about gut health, I've personally been taking bovine colostrum every day because I find it kind of resets things within my gut.
Yeah. Completely, right? And think about that colonoscopy, we're flushing things out of the colon in order to go in and look at things. And that's good, right? You want to
Good
get a good
clean out.
we want to clean you out so that they can go in and investigate. It's a healthy thing. You need to do it, but you're flushing out those bacteria, so they have to be replenished,
Yes. Oh my
right? So,
gosh. That's
yeah, we
such a
have to,
great way of explaining it.
yeah, right. And the same thing if you've had diarrhea or bouts of illness, right? Think about what that is. You eat something, you get food poisoning or whatever, and the body flushes everything out because it's like, get rid of this stuff. Okay, great, we got rid of it, but oftentimes we lose the good guys as well.
Yes.
Same thing when we take antibiotics. There are reasons to take antibiotics, right? They kill the bad guys, but they kill the good guys too. And then you're left feeling something feels a little off. And you and I talked about this. We may be a little more in tune with how that feels, but it's really, we have to put those good guys back in. That's our immune system. They really help us.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great way of explaining it. So we have bacteria that supports our immune health that sits in our small intestine, our large intestine, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like
Our
these
skin, our nasal
everywhere.
cavities, everywhere. Yep.
So when you're cleaning out the colon from a colonoscopy, thank God it was all good and all I don't have to go back for 5 years.
Yay.
But yes, I noticed an imbalance after that. So that's such a beautiful point to make for people that any kind of situation where you are unwell, it could kind of rock the boat in terms of your gut health, which in turn can affect your immune health.
Yeah. So, Sandy, tell us what colostrum is so we can talk about why that's so beneficial.
So colostrum is, okay, let's say the mother's milk, the pre-milk
Yes.
from a cow. But the one that anybody who's had a baby knows that it's very important for your newborn to get that colostrum. So I breastfed both of my children. This happens to come from bovine, so cow. However, there are so many amazing properties with colostrum that we are just learning now. Actually, there's quite a few studies on it that it supports immune health, it supports the gut barrier integrity,
Mhm.
it
Yes.
supports the healthy bacterial balance in the gut. So I actually posted about this a long time ago and I just reposted a post because I'm like, damn, that was a good post. I got to bring that back. You know how it is, Lainey. Like
Oh,
we
yeah.
post on social media and then it's like buried down at the bottom. But this is,
Completely.
anyway, I personally love, so we're going to start talking
Yeah.
about supplements. I love bovine colostrum. And the one that I take is liposomal, which
Mm.
again, I've tried non-liposomal, so meaning it's not encapsulated in lipids or fats. It didn't have the same effect as liposomal.
Right. So, well, first of all, thank you for explaining that because that's to that point. The mother's colostrum is how an infant gets their first immunity support,
Yeah.
right? They get
Yeah.
all of that. So that's when Sandy talks about this, that's what she's trying to do is re-inoculate herself with some really good bacteria and immune support. And how we absorb that is going to be a little bit different. But to your point, that's wonderful, right? Because colostrum would come in a fatty milk form, right? From breast
Exactly.
from. So that makes sense. Yes.
Yes. So we want to make sure that we're absorbing it. So for
Mhm.
me personally, and I'm going to say everybody's different,
Yep.
and I always make sure it's a very clean source,
Yep.
not a cow that's been stuffed with tons of hormones and antibiotics, and then you're going to go and take the colostrum. No, people know what you're taking.
Yep.
So that's a very, very important point if you are taking a supplement such as this. But I actually see a benefit relatively quickly
Yeah.
because I act on it quickly. I don't let things fester for a long
Yeah.
time. So I think that's another important point.
Yeah. So I just thought of another one though. So another clue about how your immunity is and how your gut health is your tongue.
Mm,
The appearance of your tongue. We want to have a pink tongue, right? So when you have you thought about like when you have a head cold and you just feel like there's stuff all over your coated on your tongue, that's that imbalance, that dysbiosis of the bacteria. So to your point, when I had my surgery a couple years ago, I came out of having all of that anesthesia and all the antibiotics, and I came home, my whole tongue was just coated white. Like I was off, right? My bowel movements were off, everything was off. And so obviously bowel movements are a way to kind of modulate and see what's happening. But I doubled up all of my immune support supplements, my probiotics, my leaky gut stuff. And within 5 days, my tongue was pink again. So
mm.
when we're going through these, look at your tongue. What is your tongue telling you? Is there a film on it? Is there a gray coating, a white coating? that usually indicates, yeah, you're not as resilient as you need to be right now.
Oh, that's an amazing point. And I remember because I took two of my courses were symptomatology, and we talk about the nails, we talk about the tongue, so the skin. There's just so many different clues that something might be off. And so I like to, what's the word? Prophylactic? I like to
Yeah. Yeah.
I like to use a lot of supplements prophylactically. So another thing I want to point, because a lot of people have had their tonsils out. Tonsils are really important for immune health. And oh man, Lainey, if I could go back and like wave a magic wand and change some of the things that I
Yeah.
did, damn, I look back, my son, when he was little, he was only 5, he had very large tonsils and adenoids.
Yeah.
Okay. No infections, no throat problems, nothing. And it was suggested to me by a specialist that we remove everything. And she did actually say, well, he'll probably grow into them, but he's not sleeping. He was snoring like an old man. I will
Okay.
note.
Yeah.
I will note. So I was worried about his sleep. He had that surgery. And now anytime he gets in contact with a bug, it immediately goes to his chest.
Mm.
So isn't that fascinating, right?
That is.
Because
That is.
if you think about it logically, your tonsils are there. So one of the entry points of viruses is the mouth, the nose, which is all connected to the throat and
Yes.
the tonsils. Then there's the ears, then there's the skin. Like these are all entry points. And for him, it immediately goes to his chest. So you know what I've told him to do? And now he's like much older, but he knows this now.
Mm.
The second he feels a tickle in his throat, I get him to gargle with salt, good salt,
Yes.
and warm water, and gargle a few times a day to ensure that that virus doesn't go down further into his chest.
Yes.
But you're
Yeah.
going to laugh at this. Oh my God, Lainey, you're going to laugh so hard at this one. I still laugh about this.
I haven't even heard it.
In his first year of university, he's I'm packing all this stuff for him, and I pack a bag of salt. And it was Redmond.
Yes.
And he looks at me, he's like, Mom, why are you packing a bag of salt for me? Like, I feel like such a loser. I'm like, honey, that salt's going to come in handy.
You're
Trust
going to
me.
need it. You're going to be happy you have it. Yes.
Oh God, I hope that this hasn't damaged my children. Anyway, but I know that was long-winded, Lainey, but I just had to know, like, people don't get it with immune health that
Yeah.
we have a system in place to protect us.
To totally do all the, yes, exactly. I mean, and also like think about the nasal. We always think about, oh, allergies and things like that. If you have a constant post nasal drip or there's constant congestion, you've got something in there your body can't clear. What is it? Right? That's what it's for. That's why you blow your nose, is that all that mucosal lining catches the dust and the toxins and then you blow it out. Right. So that,
Yes.
or if you don't, if it comes in, then your gut bacteria has to handle it and get rid of it. But yeah, we have this really cool immune system. Think about it. I mean, the one example is, the dog can drink from a dirty mud puddle and they don't get sick because they have an immune system, right? What is in the mud puddle? All kinds of things. And we have this immune system too. That's why we can go and pick an apple off a tree and it doesn't kill us. But I mean, I'm sure there's bacteria on that apple, right? We have this amazing immune system built in.
Yes. And we can't be afraid of bacteria, and we can't be afraid of viruses because our bodies are so intelligent that it's always trying to maintain that homeostasis.
Totally, totally. And there's always a balance of some of the beneficial and a few pathogenic, right? And that helps keep things in check. Because that's the other thing is that we got to kill all the germs. We got to kill all of them, right? The reality is we all have a little bit of staph in our body. We all have a little bit of E. coli in our body. We all have a little bit of these different things. The problem is when they get out of balance, when we're not feeding the good guys or getting the rest we need. And then that kind of shifts things and we become more susceptible.
Okay, this might be a tough question, but what's one of your, because I'm sure you have many, just like I do. If somebody asks me, what's your one favorite supplement to support immune system? I'd be like, I can't give you one. So, give me a few of your favorites and let's break it down.
Sunshine.
Of course.
Number one, sunshine. So you and I were talking about this, immunity is not a cold and flu season thing. It's a year-round thing. It's building up the resiliency, building up your strength. So in the summertime, I'm outside as much as I can. And quite frankly, if I take a nap just in the sun for 15 minutes, the energy I have, the more, I just feel better getting that sunshine because we're getting the vitamin D boost. We're getting the fresh air. We're getting all of those things that make our system work better. So
I'm going to agree with you on that. And something else I want to add to that. People are afraid of the sun these days. And I posted about this. I'm like, listen, I get it. Like skin cancer is up. I actually posted about how it is. And I'm like, but if you're slathering on all this sunscreen, shouldn't it be getting better, not worse?
Right.
So I'm always like, listen, I'm a aging better girl. Like I don't want to have sunspots on my face. So I always put sunscreen on my face, but I let my body absorb all that sunshine whenever I can.
Yeah, definitely. And then to that point, getting in the red light or the sauna and things when it's wintertime, that warmth, think about that. We talk about it's cold and flu season because it's cold outside, right? So if we just think from using our brain a little bit, we need to be warmer, right? When you actually have a fever, what happens when the immune system is triggered? It raises your temperature. So getting in the sauna, you actually can, build up your heat shock protein so that your immune system is stronger. So going outside when you have sun, getting in a sauna or red light, you'll be amazed at just how much better you feel.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because if you think about it, everything kind of turns on with our circadian rhythm being imbalanced. In balance, not imbalanced, in balance. Let me just make sure that that's clear. So I actually interviewed a doctor last year. You know what she said? She said, listen, if your circadian rhythm, like obviously getting up at the same time is really important. We kind of all know that. But if I get up at, I don't know, 5:30, 6, I go to bed early too. I'm usually asleep by 10:30.
Yep.
I'm getting up at around 5:36. It's dark here, just like with you. So one of the things she said was blast your face with light, whether it's like what you were saying, the red light therapy, or I use a happy light, which it's not just about turning on a few lights in the morning. It's about blasting your face with light. And what that does is it sets things in motion for your body to say, yep, it's time for you to wake up. And then again, it's time for you to go to bed by 10.
Yes. Yeah, because that waking you up, which would normally be the sunlight, right? If you were able to tune into that, but that stimulates that cortisol awakening response, which boosts your immune system. It says, okay, let's get up. What do we need to handle right away? Let's handle things and get going for the day. And it's the same reason exercise in the morning is such a good thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And someone might say, well, I don't have a sauna or access to a sauna. Then exercise, sweat. Right? Getting up in the morning, moving your body. That's how you're going to get rid of everything that your body was working on all night. So when you sleep, the body goes through this detox process where it's like cleaning up and fighting off things that you may have picked up during the day. And then one of the first things you need to do in the morning is have a bowel movement, rehydrate, move your body so that you can excrete the bad stuff. You don't want that sitting around. You don't want to be this sludge full of stuff that's not moving.
You don't want to be full of shit all day. Sorry.
No.
Anyway, but it's true. It's called your body loves routine. Your hormones love routine. Your immune system loves routine. And this is probably why you see a lot of university students who get sick all the time, because they lack routine.
Yeah. And they're staying up late because they're trying to get done with their studies. And then the weekend comes and then they want to go have fun. And then they sleep in late. And, all of these things get a little bit thrown off in that setting.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is that happens to us just as adults with life, right? We're raising kids and then we finally have time to take a break at 10 and then we stay up too late watching TV or, all of the things. Or then we get up early to take care of the kids and then we're running to work. And so we end up getting off of our routine and the whole system kind of goes haywire.
Absolutely. I mean, we all do it. I always say we're our own worst enemies, even when we know, but that's where self-awareness comes in, where you go, okay, I
Yeah.
got to stop this now and rejig things
Yeah.
because it's not working.
Mhm.
Okay. So we've talked about lifestyle.
Yep.
We've talked about bovine colostrum. Let's get into vitamin D.
Mm. I do love vitamin D, right? Obviously, getting it from sunshine is going to be the best way to do that. But for most of us that live in a northern, latitude, that's going to be me in Montana, you in Canada, we're not getting the kind of sunlight we need to trigger that vitamin D synthesis.
Mhm.
And if we're stressed and handling that, we're running through our vitamin D stores. I can't say that for me, Sandy. Vitamin D
Stores.
stores.
Yes.
And so, yes, I love vitamin D. It's something I take year round. I take more in the winter than I do in the summer. And I do have my lab work done every year to make sure I'm not overdoing it or underdoing it.
So this is really interesting. Maybe I shouldn't even get into this here. It had to do with vitamin D testing.
Mm.
Basically, how it vitamin D blood tests actually test the inactive form. So
Mm. Yes.
the the active your body has to convert it to the active form. So essentially, I always say get your D levels checked,
Yeah.
but your D levels, if you're low in the inactive form, imagine what the active form that is actually doing something in your body is,
Yeah.
right? So, I'm going to always say, because we don't have any other option, then check your vitamin D in your blood
Yeah.
and see where you're at. Make sure you're optimal
Hmm.
because the range is so vast. And usually, if you go to your doctor and you get it checked, by the way, if you're in Canada, unless you have a pre-existing health condition, you have to ask and you have to pay for it. So I know most of my listeners are American, but
They
in
usually have
Canada,
it's usually extra in the States too.
it's
It's
what?
it's extra in the States too
Like
on
how
most.
much do you guys pay in you're in Montana, right?
Yeah, I'm going to say it depends on the insurance plan, because they'll cover some screenings annually, but usually vitamin D is an add-on, so it could be anywhere from 25 to $75 just for that marker.
Okay, yeah. So here in Canada, or I should say in Ontario, because I don't know where it is in other province, what it's at cost wise, but in Ontario, it's around 35 to $40
Mhm.
and it's worth it. And the other thing I will say, because vitamin D is fat soluble, it takes a little bit of time to build it up, but it also takes time to deplete it. Right? So, that's one thing to note, and you wanna take it with fat because it's a fat soluble vitamin. So and you wanna take it earlier in the day, so it kinda mimics what your body would do earlier in the day, not
Yeah.
at nighttime. Don't take it at night.
Yeah. And then to that point too, of being a fat soluble vitamin, those vitamin D levels can hint at your hormone levels too, because they're all fat soluble, right? They all run in that cholesterol family. So if we have low vitamin D and low hormones, everything is connected.
Yeah.
Everything is connected. So we do want to optimize the levels that we're testing.
Yeah, so vitamin D, I will say, in terms of your immune health, actually has a role to play in every single aspect of your immunity. And I'm going to say this because I actually recorded a show, a while ago. It was over a year ago on autoimmune diseases. And people do not realize how critically important it is listen, it's not the only thing that's going to prevent autoimmune disease, but it's almost like low vitamin D might even be that trigger. So, you've got the genetics, you have the lifestyle, you have lack of movement, you have stress, you have poor gut health, and then you have low vitamin D. Well, if you've got those genetics for autoimmune diseases, boom, the trigger's pulled.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I mean, I grew up in Montana, but I lived for a decade in Southern California and Hawaii in sunshine areas. And I definitely felt like that was, oh, health is great when you have a lot of sunshine. When I moved back to Montana, I started seeing just, in my own world, because I worked in gyms and fitness centers, so many more people with autoimmune disease and cancer. I worked in a huge gym facility in San Diego, huge, in multiple locations. Rarely did I hear that. It wasn't a conversation. And then I started looking into the research, and there is correlation with higher latitudes and less sunlight in autoimmunity and cancer instances. So sunlight, vitamin D, critical to immune health.
Yes. And then I always say, if you're taking a little bit higher doses, actually, if you're taking any dose now, there's enough evidence to say take a little K2,
Yeah.
like 100, 120 micrograms of K2 with vitamin D. It's just going to help that D get into the right places wherever your body is pulling it and needs it.
Yeah. And I mean, if we're talking to women too, we need vitamin D for our bone health.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So to make the calcium absorbed for our strong bones, we need that vitamin D. It's critical.
Yeah. And thyroid health. I mean,
Yeah.
listen,
Everywhere.
we could go on, but the fact is this show is about immunity. If you haven't already gotten the hint, get your vitamin D levels checked.
Yeah.
And if you have problems getting it checked, wherever you are, I think in North America, you can get yourself a kit from Omega Quant. They have great little home kits where you just prick your finger and send it off and get your vitamin D checked. There's no excuse to not have it checked.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so let's move on. And I actually love this because what often happens when we travel, let's go to travel.
Okay.
This is about immune health over
Yeah.
the holidays and travel. So I'm going to talk
Yeah.
specifically about travel. I have a lot of issues sleeping in a strange environment. So one, and I'm going away. I'm going to Vegas tomorrow. This is going to air after I get back. But my husband snores. And I have seen, you're a biohacker. I've seen a million different earplugs on the market, and I'm not going to slam some of these more expensive ones, but I have tried them. And trust me, coming from a girl who's got a husband who snores, they don't work. So one of my favorite hacks for sleeping, and this is whether you have a snoring husband or spouse or not, is Max silicone earplugs, cheap on Amazon. Laini, they're
I
the
love it.
best earplugs I've ever used. That's my favorite hack. And this is my gift to you guys who are listening, because you can go on Amazon and it's spelled MACK apostrophe S, Max silicone earplugs. And they're almost like a putty, and you just kind of roll it and you form it to your ear. Oh my God, like amazing.
Okay, I need those for
Yeah.
sure. Yes. Yes.
And they're cheap.
Yeah.
So it saves me whenever I travel.
Okay,
What about
that's
you?
amazing.
What's
Yeah.
what's one of your favorites when you travel, Lainey?
So when I travel, I always, just because I tend to fall off routine or I go and have fun eating with whatever I'm doing. So I always take a greens powder to make sure I'm getting my fruits and vegetables, right? I just drink it in the morning. That's an easy one. I make sure I have my vitamin D, my probiotics, and then I usually take some extra magnesium in powder form to kind of make sure that I'm regular and electrolyte. Right. Because when we travel, we tend to get dehydrated. We don't drink as much water, and then we're going to be more congested. Right. We're not moving our bowels. We just kind of feel heavy. So making sure that everything's moving and putting a little extra nutrition in are some of the things I like.
Yeah, I love that. I actually pack. So I know you're a big fan of Element
Mhm.
electrolytes, and they're spelled LMNT.
Yes.
And they're expensive though. So I reserve them for when I do travel, and they come in these little packets, and they just make sure that you're getting enough electrolytes throughout the day.
Yeah.
You like those too?
I do, yes. I try to start the day with them and just kind of make things sure things are moving in the day. Because you never know what you're doing when you're traveling. Are you visiting family and friends? Are you going to be in the car? Are you going to events? And so kind of like you said, front load everything in the morning, kind of get things going.
Yeah.
Um, I like taking some different essential oils with me. Like I really like the On Guard blends from doTERRA,
Yeah.
right? So I'll roll those on my feet at night and even take those internally just for a little extra boost, support, whatever we want to say,
Yeah.
right? Any kind of throat sprays, anything that's kind of preventative. I just use it like you do ahead of time.
Yes. I always pack bee propolis throat spray. It's my favorite. And actually, I give that one to my son who doesn't have the tonsils as well.
Yeah.
And he loves it because, the second you feel, and I don't, oh my gosh, I'm going to tell you a story, another story. It's story time. We traveled
Yeah.
during COVID, and we were so worried that we were going to maybe get COVID and then not be able to come home.
Oh, right.
And oh my God, Lee, I actually brought with me Povidone iodine nose spray. Have you ever used that?
No, I have not.
Oh my God. I can actually still see my husband's face. He's like, "Are you kidding me?" Because it felt like you burned and singed every single hair in your nostril. But you see, this is what I mean by extreme. Because
Yes,
remember,
right.
we have bacteria that we
Yeah.
don't we don't want to kill all the bacteria, but because I was concerned, and I'm like, I cannot, if I get sick when I get home, fine, so be it.
Right.
And so some people have that. And there are some things that I pull out of my little arsenal that I'll only use in extreme situations. Like povidone iodine is one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. But then the other thing too, and I know you agree with this, is that, when you're traveling, make sure you're supporting your digestive health. Take your enzymes and hydrochloric acid. We forget that's one of the first lines of defense in our stomach, right? We ingest the food and that hydrochloric acid kind of takes care of things. So making sure that have our enzymes and things like that when we eat, our probiotics, something a little bit to support our gut, our sleep, anything we can do to manage our stress while we're traveling, but then enjoy it, have fun,
Yeah.
right? Don't be stressed out about this experience. Just plan. Just plan a little bit.
Yeah. And bring a few things
Yeah.
in your little, travel arsenal, such as maybe povidone iodine is going to
Yeah,
be your
right?
choice. And you're going to want to singe all your nose hairs. But hey, if it
Whatever works.
whatever works. No, but seriously, I had to do that because I'm like, I have to get home to my kids. And, there was no way I was going to, because at that time, you had to do the test
Oh yeah.
before, the
Before
test
and after.
after. And I'm like, what if we get sick while we're there and then you're stuck in a hotel? Or
Yeah.
it was like, just the thought of it scared me.
Mhm.
Now, I do want to talk about oregano because I do pack oregano, but
Mhm.
I have found that using oregano, even over, let's say 5 days, can throw my gut bacteria off. Have you noticed that?
If I were to use a lot of it for an extended time, yes.
Yeah.
Right. And this is what's great. It's really about eating that variety of foods and all those herbs and things. Oregano is really powerful, antifungal, antibacterial, and you can take that in capsule form. It's a great thing to take when you're traveling, just to give you a little extra support, right? To kind of knock out some things you might be catching.
Yeah, and again, you can actually take that prophylactically
Mhm.
as well. And to your point, if you just, maybe do it like once a day, you do it, I take a buffered form with
Mhm.
that's liquid right under my tongue. It can
Yeah.
be a little potent, but it is buffered, so it's a little bit better. And then I swig down some water with it. And
Yeah.
then I know it's kind of doing its job, but if I'm not taking it too often or too much, it's not going to knock everything out. Because
Right.
it's I don't listen, Lainey. I've heard a few things that it's almost like this like intelligent scavenger that it's
Yeah.
only going to take out all the bad stuff, but I don't know, Lainey. I don't
Yeah.
know
I
because
mean, I
some
think how
studies.
you're dosing and those kind of things, but if you're if you think about food as medicine and adding oregano and spices to your food, that's going to have that nice balance. You're going to get some nutrients, you're going to get some antibacterial things in there. So boosting that a little bit, or even if it is a hot oil. So if you're using it as an oil, it does need to be buffered, right? So even you don't put it directly on the skin, it's a hot oil. You'd want that in fractionated coconut oil. You can put it on the bottoms of your feet. It gets in, kind of does that. But everybody is going to be different and everybody's going to respond a little differently. So there is a limit. You don't just want to take as much as you possibly can of something.
No,
Although
no,
that's not necessarily a good thing.
no. And of course, I have to mention colloidal silver.
Mhm.
Mention that because number one, they're my podcast sponsor for over a year, and I really love their products. Some people, it might not be for them to take it internally. Um, I know that you have to look at the source. You have to look at who is the manufacturer, what are their manufacturing processes, and colloidal silver by Silver Biotics. And this episode actually is sponsored by them. And I have to mention them because I use it regularly, and I've been using the topical armor gel on my kids instead of polysporin ever since they were little. There's a lot of antimicrobial properties in colloidal silver, but you want to make sure that you're taking it from a reputable company.
Right. Yeah. And in that one's been around forever.
Yes,
So it is
before
not,
antibiotics, Lainey,
yes,
I heard.
it's this is a traditional, approach to healing and health support. So look into that for sure. That's I have a few. Yeah, I like colloidal silver too. It's not one of my, I haven't used it as often, but I definitely like it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into zinc
Mhm.
because it's so interesting. I find it interesting that, you know, allopathic medicine catches on to the importance of a nutrient and then they put it into everything. Everything, right? You'll find zinc lozenges all over the place. And what people don't realize is yes, zinc is amazing. It's an amazing mineral, but if you take too much of it, you can actually deplete copper, right?
Right. Yeah. And the other part of that is zinc is a mineral. You need stomach acid to absorb it. Like there's a balance to everything, right? So yes, you may take that, but look at the labs. What's happening? There are some formulas that have a little bit of everything, but it needs to be a more balanced formula, to your point. So you're not just taking one straight mineral all the time because they all work in conjunction together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I even always say that B complex methylated is amazing for handling your stress, which in turn can help your immune system,
Yeah,
right? And everybody's always like, "Oh, I got to take my B12." I'm like, "Well, what about the other Bs?" Like, do you realize that actually in nutrition school, I learned that yes, it's okay if you need a little extra B12 to take that, but you should be taking the family of B complex with it.
yeah. And once again, we're coming back to food. You and I love to talk about nutrition, but this is where, if you've heard of eating beef liver,
Mm,
it's a superfood because it has all of those B vitamins, all of those minerals, all of these things in one food source.
yeah.
You may have seen that around, and there are options for adding that into your diet, your nutrition, and once again, if you have it a reputable source, taking it as actually as a supplement. It's nature's multivitamin.
I was just going to say that. You just took the words right out of my mouth.
Right? Because that's how in nature everything comes together. You don't just take B12, you don't just take something. That's not how it is in nature. Everything works together.
Yeah, I love that you said that because I actually gave some pure liver capsules to one of my kids because I'm like, you know what? But just take this a couple days a week.
Yeah.
You don't have to take it every day, but you're going to get the vitamin A, you're going to get the B vitamins, you're going to get the E, you're going to get everything that you need. And
Yeah.
it's not in a Flintstones vitamin, people.
Totally. And it's in a more usable combination of nutrients. When we get multivitamins, oftentimes they're higher doses than we need. They don't always work together synergistically. So having that in that food source is a really great way to support yourself.
Okay, vitamin C.
I love it.
Okay. Well, we all know it's an amazing antioxidant, but you can't really take, I don't even know, maybe I have a liposomal liquid vitamin C that I'm taking, a few days a week, more prophylactically and just to manage my health. But I don't know, like, what do you think about the forms of vitamin C?
So there's definitely different forms. I tend to lean toward what can people afford and what can they. Do you know what I mean? I want you to come from a quality source. So typically I'm going to go from a quality supplement brand is going to where I'm going to start. And then depending on the goal, if we really need to work on absorption, let's look at some liposomal, let's look at some different options. But vitamin C, we if it's water soluble, right? We don't make vitamin C, so we do need to bring it into our diet, on a regular basis. And our adrenal glands really use up our vitamin C stores. So it's something that I take all the time, right? Because to that stress point, what usually happens is we're stressed out, we finish the stress, and then we get sick, and we're like, oh, we should take some vitamin C and some zinc. Well, maybe we should have been building up those stores beforehand so we had something. But yeah, what forms do you like, Sandy?
Well, I take a good brand, like you said, ascorbic acid, 1,000 milligrams
Yeah.
with the citrus bioflavonoids,
Yes.
right?
They
So
absorb better, so you definitely want those bioflavonoids in it.
yeah, and I usually will take 1,000 milligrams, and most people can handle, but while I'm home, I take the liposomal 1,000 milligrams. But when I travel, I'll take in capsule form. I'll
Yeah.
take that. Um, let's go back to probiotics.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned probiotics, and one of my favorites that I always travel with is a Saccharomyces boulardii.
It is a
Uh,
good one.
Well, I think it's a good one because it's what's used often when you have diarrhea.
Yes.
And a lot of people, I think, when you travel, you're eating different food. You
Yeah.
can either go one way or the other. So the magnesium, you mentioned
Yep.
magnesium. I'll bring a citrate or citrate, however you want to
Yep.
pronounce it. I'll bring a glycinate
Hmm.
pure.
Hmm.
So this is the one that I actually like just to make sure that I don't
Yeah.
have any issues with my stomach, like that I'm going too
Yeah.
often, is like a chelated pure glycinate to
Nice.
make
Yeah.
sure. And
Hmm.
then I have another one that's a blend from CanPrev that I like. That's kind of a nice little blend.
Yeah. Of all your magnesiums. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. No,
But
Saccharomyces
yeah,
boulardii,
Saccharomyces.
and it's a probiotic yeast, right? So when you look at it, it's going to have a different name on the back. It's not a bifido or lacto or any of those things that you might think of, but it does. And when oftentimes we think yeast, bad, candida, but in this case, it's a good one. It's actually beneficial and it helps balance out the intestinal tract. So it's really good. And it's what people will prescribe if you're having loose stools or diarrhea, especially from traveling or food poisoning, those kind of things that can be really helpful. And then just taking a good probiotic. So, this, I'm a fan of Megaspore. So that is a probiotic that I take with me often.
And
But
it's
you
shelf stable, right?
Yes, it's shelf stable, so you don't have to have it refrigerated. But they do have a formula that has some bacillus and the Saccharomyces combined. So for
Okay.
traveling too.
Um, I think we talked enough about supplements, lifestyle, diet. Now the last thing, it's so funny because I got to talk about this. And, it's such a touchy subject, but a more recent study came out. It's pretty recent from JAMA about masks.
Mhm.
And here's the interesting thing. What the general consensus, and maybe I'll put this in the show notes so that people can read and then
Yeah,
decide.
definitely. Definitely.
The general consensus, I'm going to read a quote. How about this? That's what I'm going to do, Laini. Okay, this is a quote from the study. While the idea that masks work, while mask mandates do not, might seem like a paradox, there's actually a very simple explanation for the phenomenon. So this study said masks work, but mask mandates do not. Isn't that interesting? Because it does seem like a paradox. You're like, what?
Yeah.
That doesn't
Yeah.
make sense. But the simple explanation is when you mandate masks for everyone to wear them, everyone's wearing them differently. Kids
Mhm.
have them hanging from their faces. So do adults. You're wearing a dirty mask that, has been sitting in your bag forever. Like you're like, so, but they did show that it can prevent certain particles from entering. So this is where I'm like, listen, if you're really afraid of getting sick and you're on a plane and you hear somebody coughing, well, put on your mask then. I don't
Yeah.
shame anyone for it. I don't support mask mandates, but
Yeah.
I do believe that there are situations where you're going to want to wear one. I won't ever personally, but some people might. And I think that that's all good.
Yeah, and this is why I love what you do, Sandy, is you always educate and invite people to make the decision that's best for them. And when we talk about masks, think about doctors wear masks,
Yeah.
right? There is research behind masks and spreading things. I'm not a big mask wearer either, because from the health standpoint, what are you breathing in? What are you recirculating? All of those things. But also, if someone is going under cancer treatment and they really need to be careful about what's in the air around them, right? Masks can be important. There are definitely reasons that can be supportive. But on the flip side, you also need a resilient immune system.
Exactly. But there's
So,
reasons for it. Yeah.
yes, definitely. And like you say, yes, depending on the mask quality, the mask type, how you're wearing the mask, let's be honest, viruses can get through cloth, viruses can get through paper, you know what I mean? So you're not going to be, oh gosh, there's no risk at all if I wear a mask. But definitely you're probably reducing your exposure,
Yeah. Yeah. And
right?
you know me, Lainey, I don't like to judge people,
No, no.
but at the same time, I don't believe in controlling everybody because
Right.
it's like me. I try and control my family. I do. I try, Lainey. But often, because they're adults, it doesn't work.
Yes. No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
No, no. And it doesn't matter that I'm the expert wellness person in the family either. But, anyway, I've been saying all along that mask mandates don't work. And I was kind of joking about it because I'm like, listen, this dude has it hanging off his face. He's
I know.
hacking and coughing. I'm like, come on. And I was putting one, Lainey, in my purse,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's thrown in the bottom of my purse. Like,
Yes.
come on. But I like to your point, if there is a specific reason why you
Yeah.
cannot get sick, then the studies show that it can help you depending on the quality, how you're wearing it. All of those factors matter.
Yeah. And the other thing that I think is important, if you're sick, stay home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, because that's the other reason that discussion comes up is that we are so ingrained in this culture that we don't stop for anything. We keep going. We don't stay home if we have a sniffle. We don't stay home if we have a cough. And then the thing is, it's that resiliency factor. If we have a little bit of sick, you're supposed to lay down, get some sleep, take a day off, and recover. But if you're constantly going to work and constantly traveling and doing all the things, that recovery time is going to take a lot longer, and you are spreading your germs around,
Yeah. I think,
right?
that's a positive thing, not
Yeah,
lockdowns, not
not
lockdowns,
lockdowns, but taking care of yourself.
but taking care of yourself
Yeah, and
because
Yeah.
Yeah.
My story, Sandy, I worked in a large organization, a hospital organization at one time. It was very trying,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I don't usually get really sick, and I came down with a flu. I mean, at that time, I don't think I'd had the flu in a decade, right? But it was like the kind where I felt like crap. Like I felt like I'd been hit by a bus, all the things. I stayed home. I laid on the couch. I did all the things. About day three, because we had a policy at the hospital that if you stayed home longer than 3 days, you had to have a doctor's note to come back. You
Oh,
could just come back. So I could have gone to work on day three and been approved to go to work, but I was not 100%. So I stayed home the third day. Fourth day, I felt so much better.
yeah.
But I was almost penalized for taking an extra day to feel better. It was really interesting. And at that same setting, there were bonuses given for people that never missed work.
Oh, interesting.
So you had people coming to work sick because they got a bonus at the end of the year for not missing work.
Times have changed,
Yeah.
right?
So you need to
And
kind of
and
figure that out.
it's all about balance, because the fact of the matter is now we have more options. So let's
Mhm.
say if you are concerned, but you're not feeling so horrible, you can stay home, you can work from home if you don't want to spread whatever you've got. But I am going to say this to your point earlier about resiliency. I do feel that our society has almost forgotten that it's normal to get sick.
Yeah.
It's normal. So I can recall, Lainey, this is kind of a funny story. I can recall my son, he was a baby, and I was like holding him over the toilet as he was throwing up. And then I put him down and then I would throw up. And it's like, every year it's just something that we had to deal with. We would get
Oh,
some sort of a flu, some sort of a cold, some
yeah.
sort of a stomach bug, and it was normal. So
Mhm.
it's almost like we've forgotten that it's okay. Okay, listen,
Yeah.
I'm not talking about serious illness here, people.
No, no.
And when COVID began, it was scary for everyone.
Mhm.
The way that it began, the way that it was knocking all of the elderly people out, like,
Yeah.
but people die of the flu every year, and it's
Mhm.
unfortunate. And
Mhm.
elderly people are unfortunately a target of regular annual flus.
Yeah.
They are, I think, some of the biggest victims and people who have compromised immune systems.
You,
So,
Sandy, I was just thinking as you're bringing this up though, with
yeah,
that point, is that if you've ever talked about, getting your flu shots and it's a different strain and all of these things, are these bacteria and viruses are very intelligent.
yes,
And so when we learn a way to shut them down, they adapt.
yeah,
So it's really hard to stay ahead of that game in terms of attacking them. But to your point, we may have to be exposed a little bit so we can build up that natural immunity because they are just as smart as we are, probably smarter. So we come out with a plan, they learn a workaround. We
yep,
decide that we're going to do this, they learn to work around. So to not be so afraid of that because it's a balance game. And so I think that's important. What you're saying is really important to not be so afraid of everything because we are built to adapt to the different stressors and things we come in contact with.
yeah. Our body always, so you can't run away from a flu. You can't hide from a flu. You can't say, okay, well, if I close my door and don't come out, the flu's just going to go away. Poof, magic. No, it's got to run its course.
Yeah.
And I'm not minimizing at all. I
Oh,
want to
oh,
make this point. I'm not minimizing the effect of COVID at all, because some people have lost
yes.
family, friends. I don't want to seem insensitive at all. But we had severe lockdowns here in our area. And that's not what this podcast is about, but very severe. We had mandates, we had businesses closed, we had everything. And guess what? Everyone got COVID anyway. We had the vaccines, we had everything, but
Yeah.
everyone got it anyway. So to your point, sometimes it's just got to run its course. And if we support ourselves and our immune system prophylactically in advance, eating whole real foods, moving our body, doing all the things that we talked about in this podcast, then we should not be afraid.
Yeah, exactly. It's really true. The answer to a strong immune system is health, building up your health.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to say one more thing about fear, because you brought that up, because fear can immobilize you and prevent you from having a healthy immune system. It can prevent you from really kind of just enjoying life. So, we can't be afraid of getting sick. I mean, it sucks. It totally
Totally. It does.
sucks.
It's not
But
fun.
it's not fun. It's not fun. But when you add in the whole fearful point, it's even worse because it'll immobilize your immune system. It'll affect your cortisol. It'll affect everything else.
All of it.
All right, my dear. Well, that was an amazing episode. And I am going to put this out before Christmas. So I would love for you to say, tell everybody where they can find you, because you do see clients one-on-one.
Mhm.
So please do tell us.
Yeah. So my name is Laini Gray, but my website is graystarhealth.com. So you can find me there. I have a blog, I have information, freebies, all the things, and a link. You can set up a free call to work with me. And then I'm most active on Instagram at laini.gray. So I share things there too. So yes, I would love to get in touch with you, share things. And I'm so grateful to be on your episode today, Sandy.
Yeah, me too. I'm grateful for you. And I will have all this information in the show notes. Thank you so much, Lainey.
Thank you.
Okay.